Good evening, everyone. We begin the readout tonight on the eve of the Capitol Insurrection anniversary. 1 year ago tonight, all the pieces were in place for Donald Trump to attempt something that has never been done in this country. For weeks, after 81 million Americans declined to re-elect him, Trump had been calling on his supporters to descend on Washington, promising it will be wild. And on January 5th, he praised the thousands pouring into D.C. and clogging up all the hotels and Airbnbs, saying Washington is being inundated with people who don't want to see an election victory stolen. Our country has had enough. They won't take it anymore. We hear you and love you from the Oval Office. Trump also put a target squarely on Mike Pence's back, falsely claiming that his vice president had the power to reject fraudulently chosen electors. And we now know where he was getting that wild idea. As we've learned over the past several months, there were at least 4 memos circulating among Trump's inner circle, and all of them proposed a version of the same unprecedented scheme to pressure Pence and get enough Republican House and Senate members to reject Democratic votes on January 6th, certification day, that the election would have to be decided by Congress, where Republicans held the upper hand, instead of by the Electoral College. These plots may have been dressed up in legalese and sports metaphors, but they represented nothing less than a coup. And they were based on the same false claims that Trump's Department of Justice, headed by a literal Trump henchman, William Barr, had already rejected. Mike Pence felt so much pressure to go along. He even consulted George H.W. Bush's former vice president, Dan Quayle, who rightfully confirmed that Pence had zero power to overturn the election. And yet, Trump and his allies used those dubious memos to recruit Republican lawmakers to join in their scheme. By the eve of the insurrection, his top goons, including Rudy Giuliani and Steve Bannon, had assembled a war room at D.C.'s Willard Hotel, a so-called command center with the single mission of overturning the election. It was on that same day that Bannon dropped this ominous warning.
All hell is going to break loose tomorrow. Just understand this. All hell is going to break loose tomorrow. It's going to be moving. It's going to be quick. I'll tell you this. It's not going to happen like you think it's going to happen. Okay? It's going to be quite extraordinarily different. And all I can say is strap in.
By the evening of January 5th, with Trump supporters already in D.C. attending what could only be described as a warm-up rally for the events the following day, we now know many of the coup organizers were in touch with the White House directly. Meanwhile, the FBI knew this nation's capital was sitting on a powder keg, warning that extremists were traveling to Washington to commit violence and a war. And the White House apparently knew something was about to jump off as well. As we've learned, Chief of Staff Mark Meadows sent an email on January 5th indicating that the National Guard would be on standby, not to keep the peace, but to, quote, protect pro-Trump people. And one more thing happened on January 5th that would light yet another fuse on the neutron bomb that would go off in the Capitol on January 6th. Despite Trump having tweeted literally all day long for his people to get out and vote in Georgia, this black man and this Jewish man, Reverend Raphael Warnock and John Ossoff, won their runoff elections and would flip the Senate from red to blue. All of this set the stage for the events of January 6th. But as we know now, the insurrection was more than just a failed coup. The big lie continues to threaten the very foundation of our democracy. And that means that it's more important than ever to hold the perpetrators accountable. Tomorrow, when President Biden addresses the nation, he will reportedly make that case. He's expected to call out Trump's singular responsibility for the attack on our Capitol.